Hi, I'm Holly, I'm a writer, and it's the 1st of the 1st, 2026, and I decided that I was going to start my new novel today. I've been waiting for literally ages, specifically so that I don't have to have it be like weird, basically, because I wanted to write the entire thing in like this year, rather than start it and then finish it in the new year. Like, it just felt different. So I decided to sort of wait and be patient and let myself go through the sort of weird period of Christmas and then New Year or whatever. And so basically this is part of the series that I've decided I'm going to call it like The Path Through the Rose Garden. And it's just going to be a series of videos where, I already did the outlining video where I outline this project. I'll link that so that you can see if you haven't already, but I'm basically going to document the entire process of me writing this novel because I want to. I think that would be fun. Something I want to say now is I'm going to do a few things. For example, the first thing I'm going to just do is I'm going to show you the book that I'm reading right now. I think that this is like a really useful thing because when you read a book, especially if you enjoy it, you kind of pick up things from it. And so even though it's not like you're plagiarizing, I think it's interesting to see what somebody was engaging in, in terms of other media while they were writing the book, right? Because then you get to see what headspace they were in. And so maybe that'll be interesting to you. And also for me looking back, I also want to just I want to apologize for the glare off my glasses. It is unfortunate, but like, what else am I supposed to do, I'm not paying for like no glare glasses. That's the ridiculous expense for something that doesn't affect me personally. It affects this, but like, I need to be able to see. So the book I'm reading at the minute, which smells great by the way, I'm not going to sniff it, is The Lost World. It's the sequel to Jurassic Park. I caved and bought it because I think I bought a bunch of Christmas gifts for people from Woodstones. Not even books. I think I only bought one book, which is like, but I ended up buying a few things, and so I had credit and I bought it. And my dad was going to buy it, but he couldn't find it in the shop, so I was like, that's fine. But that's what I'm gonna do every time, is just tell you like the book that I've been reading at the time of filming the video. I won't give like a complete list because I will have that for myself. I have a book journal. I actually should update that because I have it right there and I've not filled in the other few years that I've done, but it's fine. The other thing that I want to do is I bought this notebook. This is like, it's actual embroidery. Like, this is like linen and this is like embroidery. And then if I show you, right, and I don't know if that's going to be focused or not, but basically I bought this specifically for this book, hence the roses. If you don't know, the book is called Buried Under My Rose Garden, which is why it's the journey, the path through the rose garden. It's like, this is it's going to be my diary that I keep specifically for writing. And so what I'm going to do, and that's going to be the first thing that I do, is I'm going to write like a pre-writing little bit, like a sentence or something, the date, and then I'm going to fill in the word count when I'm finished for the day and also how it went. John Steinbeck did that and it was really interesting to read, and I felt like it was something that I wanted to do because I think that especially when you've written multiple books, it starts to feel like the experience of writing each one gives you something different, and I want to be able to look back on the creation process and actually be able to pull them apart. So I think from now on I'm gonna do this with like every book if I enjoy doing it for this one. So that's gonna be the first thing that I'm gonna do. And then I've got what I had already written, which is literally like, how many words is this? How many? Nope, wrong button. 675, so it's basically nothing, right? I'm gonna rewrite this because I wanted it to be more cohesive, and I feel like when you have written something and then you add on to it, it sometimes can make you feel a little less in it, and I might change it up a little bit. I don't know. I think that it's not like bad, but I just want to change it, you know, and I wanted to start fresh, so I thought I might as well just do it. But I'm gonna basically do the journal, and then I'm gonna record myself thingy, and then I'll update at the end. I don't know what this is gonna be like as videos go. I don't know. Maybe I'll do this across a few days because I have time. It's only Thursday. So if the video was gonna go pick up on Monday, or I could even give it a week. I don't know yet. I was gonna do the Magnolia Parks video, and then it was Christmas, you know? Like, I wasn't gonna film because I was just like, you know, but I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I'm gonna just do that, and I don't know how, but I'll try and figure that out. And I will see you when I'm done. Hi, I don't know if the framing of this is right, and I don't, it's fine. Basically I finished the like prologue thing. I don't know what to call it because I don't feel like it is a prologue, but it also kind of is, you know? And I just don't know. But basically it's like before the main story, but it's like immediately before, and it's literally just like the setup so that you understand the catalyst. It's the catalyst basically for everything. And it's definitely longer than the last one. I can actually check because it's 413 words, whereas the other one was 270, so it's a little under 200 words more. But I've changed a few things. I've changed the first line because I felt like it was really weak. I still think it's kind of weak, but it's a first draft, you know, like whatever. I've got the mention of the thing that I thought was really important. I've got some more sort of descriptions so that you get like a vibe of who this woman is. And I've changed her outfit because I figured that it was actually important that she seem a little bit less. I felt like it was important that she seemed like she's trying to be casual. More than, you know, like she's got that natural vibe, even though she isn't very natural. So then we're going to go on to chapter 1, like actually chapter 1, which is nice. And this one is, it's very, very little. It's literally like, how many words is that? 400. Okay. Okay. But it's like literally in here it's like 3 paragraphs, and it's literally just, so I think that it should be okay. I've written 400 words so far. I was aiming for 1200. I don't know. It's the first day of me writing my book, so who's to say how much I'll get done. But I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do another like time-lapsey thing. I don't know what the angle that I'm gonna go for is. I'm gonna try an angle. But I'll see you when I finished for the day and I've written my like journal entry and my word count down. I have to remember that because of the way that I do it with Scrivener, I always put like a letter at the start of the chapter so that I know where the chapter writing starts, because I format like my chapters because it just makes me happy in my brain. But that counts as a word, so it won't count 2 words that I've written because of those letters. So I have to add 2 onto the end word count, and I need to remember to do that. The pipes have just decided to kick in. But I'm gonna go do that and then I'll come back, and yeah. I don't know, I'll give some thoughts. For anyone who's wondering, I guess, how to start, for me, what I just did, like for Formation Lab, the thing that I wanted was, I knew that I wanted to start it with this, like, the concept of, you know, like her walking into the paddock. So it's like you see her on her first day and she's surrounded by people, and it's this like overwhelming new experience, and it's like she goes from being surrounded by people to like the quiet and being left with her own thoughts. So I knew that I wanted that, and I wanted to set the scene, and so I went originally with the line about like hot air and petrol being like a really good smell, and then I ended up in the later draft changing it to mean like that's there in the first paragraph, but the first line is about the sun and like how hot it is, because I think that heat for me has a very claustrophobic feel. Like it's very difficult to escape heat, and so it's hot, there's sand underfoot, you know, moving with like the breeze, like an uncertainty and instability. And then the scent, this thing that she loves, which is like everything that she cares about, and then like the sounds that she's used to and how it's familiar but also it's not. That's like the vibe, right? With the vampire book, the first thing that I wanted was to show this vampire and how she kind of gets ready and it's a normal day and then she flies out the window. That was like the opening. For the World War II book, I wanted the first chapter to be, the first line is about like the sound of the engine and like bullets and stuff, and like how it's very peaceful, except for the fact that there's like the war, which feels very distant, even though they're about to literally jump into it like right now. And then for Halcyon, the first line is, under the cypress trees resurrection sat, or something along those lines. Resurrection is the name of the like facility, like the lab. I'm not going to explain that, I'll get there one day. But I just triggered my knee. I hit my leg too hard. My dad always does that. Fun fact, my dad does that in the car when I'm sat next to him. He just reaches over and goes. And one time he did it so much that my leg shot up and hit the thing of the car, the dashboard. And I was like, and he was he's always like, but it, you know, I was fine. It was just a drip, like because my leg was bare, so it like hit my shin, and I was like, but he does that all the time. He also does this thing where he like trips me, and my mum is like, one day you're gonna do that and she's gonna like really hurt herself and you're gonna be really sorry about it. But he does it all the time anyway. But basically what I was saying was that Resurrection is the name of this facility, and cypress trees, if you don't know, cypress trees are a symbol of Hades. They're associated a lot with cemeteries and stuff because they're one of the symbols. They're supposed to be found at like the entrance to the underworld on Earth, and they're basically like one of his symbols as a god of death, right? And so it's very, it's purposeful. There's a lot of symbolism and like very purposeful intent put into that book specifically, which is why I'm kind of afraid of it, because there's a lot that I want to do with it, and I feel like I've kind of nailed like the prose, but it's about how I want to actually put the events forward in a way that gets the point across without being too heavy-handed. And so for example, you have the cypress trees literally like watching over this facility, which is a way of showing that this facility perhaps is like connected to the symbology of these trees somehow, right? Which not everybody's gonna know, but it's something that meant something to me. And also cypress trees are very common in Tuscany, which is where the book is like set. It's where specifically the facility is, like the lab building. And so it's like, it gives you like an image, but it also has imagery of like the symbolism and stuff. It's like very purposeful, right? But I wanted to start it with the alarm ringing is the thing that I changed. I was like, if this isn't working, so I changed the point of the story beginning many times, and it begins with an alarm ringing out into the hills under the cypress trees. That's like the vibe, right? And I think that beginnings of stories, they can be really in that way, they can be really interesting. I always, absolutely always commend the opening of the bell jar. I think that when you've read the book and you reread that opening, it just hits so different and it's great. I think that it has like the perfect way of opening a novel in a way that sort of shows what the novel's going to be. That's kind of what I've done with this one, is that I've decided to open it. She's walking into the first show that she's going to do on this sold out tour, her first stadium tour. And she literally like is, you know, walking through like this sort of, not barricades, but like, you know, security guards holding a path clear for her. And she looks super cool and elegant, but on the inside she's a nervous wreck because she gets nervous before shows. And then this like thing happens where it's not really a spoiler. Of course it's not a spoiler. It's the first page. Like, imagine. No. But like it's she gets asked a question by somebody and she hears it, and it's like the only thing that really goes in, and she stops and she looks and she's like, what? And then I did it again, my god. But she keeps going, but she's got this like shaken thing to her while still maintaining her image as being this cool, calm, collected, very elegant woman, you know, naturally very put together. And I think that that's like the whole story basically, is even like the name Buried Under My Rose Garden, it comes from a song about how her, ostensibly it's about how her, you know, jealousy, for example, in relationships and her insecurities are buried beneath this glossy veneer. Like, you know, something is buried under a rose garden, you know, like you've got the beauty and then there's like stuff deep down. I actually, if you're interested, I've written, it's really bad, okay? But I've written the first drafts of 2 of the songs. I have a few more first drafts to do, and I'm hoping that by the time I've written a few that I'll get better. I asked my dad if I could borrow his guitar. He said yes. So I'm going to try and learn the guitar specifically so that I can try and put some music, because somehow I didn't think that the violin would work for this. I kind of hoped that he would have an acoustic. He only has an electric, but that's fine. I'm not going to be picky. It is much cheaper than buying my own, specifically to make songs that are going to be terrible anyway. But I can like share those to give you the vibe of like her music. It's really difficult, I think, when you're reading them to get the pacing of the song, but it's like a pop, kind of like with not necessarily like a faux intellectualism, but you know, they have like a sort of deeper, more sophisticated feel than some pop songs do. Like it's very much meant to be about like, you know, it sounds good, but then you think about it and you're like, whoa. That's like the vibe that she goes for as a writer. Very difficult. Like, I'm not a songwriter. I'm not I can't sing. You don't want to hear me try and sing. Trust me, I tried and I was like, this is so embarrassing. I need to never do this ever again. So you're not going to hear that. But I was trying to record myself as well, because I was like, what if I forget the way that the songs are like supposed to be? Because I knew it in my head. But I was like, I can't do this. But basically, that's like the whole sort of thing, is that, you know, obviously it's more than that, but it's a character-driven novel, and she as a character is summed up by that song, which is the title of the novel for a reason. It's about how she, you know, she feels as if on the inside, the song is about, let me get it up, because it's a first draft, but I'll just read you like the line that I'm thinking of. Yeah, so it's like, she says, compare me to the roses and have no idea how close you've come. And then later on, the rot came from the root, it was already half gone. Basically, you know, the vibe being that she looks great, and at first you think that she's great when she's like dating you, and she's got this like charm and stuff, and she tries to kind of warn you, because, you know, self-sabotage stuff, that like, hey, I'm actually like this, you know, and you think, oh no, you're like these roses, but she's like, yeah, I am, because there's something buried under the rose garden, like, you know, like there's like the rot at the root destroying the garden from the inside out, and you can't see it yet, but you will. That's like the vibe of the story. It's very important. That's why I was writing the songs, because she's a singer. I want to have clips of her song. Clips, you know what I mean, like little lyrics, especially because they help punctuate the story. She also has this other song that I wrote, which I'm actually pretty happy with. I think that the vibe, I think it's a lot better than the first one. This is like, I'll read this verse. I don't know even what they're called. But it says, it's called Gut the Bower, and it's about like the beginning of this song in my head, it's so clear that it would be like a real jazzy sort of showgirl kind of tune, you know, kind of like almost burlesque in vibe. And then it kind of shifts to something a little bit different, but it's about like the showgirl to pop star line that happened in music. So it's the mirror is the same, crusted green where their hairspray held their reflection in place. The scuffs and scrapes from the heels they danced in, while I struggled to walk with grace. This was the way they lived, and now I'm seeing the lace, vision clouded by the old perfume and the cigarette plumes. I see one wink and toss me a boa with feathers so cute and pink. I step on stage with the feathered embrace of a long gone face, and I don't know if there's supposed to be a... There may not be, or maybe I did mean, in fact no I did. There is supposed to be a space there. I haven't read these in a while, and as I said, they're first drafts, but the vibe is that it's there, you know. And I think that like the music is supposed to reflect the way that she is as a character, but also the progression of the story. And so that's why I'm writing them in the first place. As I said, it's going to be there specifically to highlight what I'm getting at without having to say it outright. Like, you get it because it's like it's in the song, you know? Like, some people might read it and just think, oh, that she's singing a song, but it's the title of the book for a reason. And so the book starts with that, and I'm sorry for this again, I'm trying to like make this as like both a diary but also as like a guide if people want to know what it's like to write a book, or if they don't want to feel alone when they're writing a book. I just personally think that like the opening line of this, for example, is flashes scorch her eyes as she walks with a careful elegance along the narrow path. Rows of men with their arms outstretched protect her from the unruly crowd that screams her name. Headlines form as the cameras find her, and she swishes her long skirt so that the slit reveals a toned, tanned to perfection leg, the peep toe of her stilettos revealing painted nails that gleam like fresh blood beneath the lights. Fans and hounds alike pad the street as she progresses to the door held open for her, the stage still dark inside where she will perform for a sold-out crowd in only a few hours. The nerves that accompany every show bubble in her stomach, and she ignores every call of her name and thrusting paper to be signed with a smile that barely holds down the bile. I think that it's a first draft, it's very rough. You can't judge a first draft, it's not okay. But I'm trying to set like this idea that, you know, as I said, like very early on, I want you to get that the name of the book, it's there for a reason. There is something beneath the rose garden, beneath the beauty. She is beautiful, she seems elegant, she has this very classy, old-fashioned-y style, but it's hiding, you know, a lot of stuff that's going on inside of her, and that's like it. That's the story. And so that's how I start it. And I don't know if this is helpful in the way of like advice, but I think that if you identify what you want to do with your book, you know, that first line can really do a lot. Whether it's showing from the very first line in a way that not everyone will get, or even know if you meant the symbolism that like this facility is being guarded by a symbol of the god of death in a story where the main character is literally referenced to be like a Greek heroine. Like, she's literally like that's like her whole thing, is that she's like an archetype of that sort of thing. Like, the symbolism in that novel in the first lines is very important. Not everyone will see it that way when they read it. I'm telling you now, it is. It's technically a spoiler, but I would call that novel a tragedy. Like, there is actually a sort of alternate title that I will probably include, maybe in like second runs or something. And I don't think that the end should be shocking. I think that the message should be about, you know, real world, kind of like how The Hunger Games is something that you read and you think about what it means when you compare it to like the real world that we live in. That's what I want that book to be. It's a statement. It's like, that's its whole point, and that's why I'm putting so much care in making sure that I'm a good enough writer to do it justice, because I believe that it has a lot of potential, but I need to actually do it right. And so that first line, I'm very proud of it, but I need to actually then follow that up with like a good book, right? The vampire one, I think the first line is about how for a really long time, nighttime was like the best time for vampires because it was the only time that they were allowed to leave the house. But that's not the case anymore. Very immediately you get the vibe that like oh, so what's happened? And then you see this vampire go out and it's still kind of light outside, right? Like it's sunset, she's going out and it's still sunny. And you get that she's like immune to the sunlight in a way. And as it goes on, you learn that they're not actually fully immune, but she can be in the sun. And that this, you know, this story is like a slightly different take on vampires than you might have seen before. That it is like about a main character who's just like, you know, she's got that youthful vibe of going out in the sun and then going for a night out. You know, the first chapter is literally her going out, getting ready for the day, going out, and then going to a nightclub where she meets this guy and she's like, oh, I want to drink this guy's blood. And that's the whole thing, right? And I think that it's one of those things that I like in a novel when you read the first line. Let me read, what is the first line of The Giver of Stars, for example? Because I think that there are just first lines that really, like, they're not necessarily even that. Oh yeah, this one. I want to read actually one that's really good. But I think sometimes like a first line, people, they overthink it. They overthink how to start their book. If it's in the wrong place that you're starting it, you will know eventually. It might be in the next draft, you might be thinking something's not right, and then you realise it could be that you get feedback. But I think that people overthink the start. This is how beaten up this copy is. Like, I took this in my book. Also, there was a period of my life where I was like, I'm gonna write the star rating and like when I finish the book, the date and the time. And I didn't do this ever again. But I finished this at 1:42 a.m. The first line of this book, this is the introduction. Howard Rourke laughed. And then the next line, he stood naked at the edge of a cliff. The lake lay far below him. A frozen explosion of granite burst in flight to the sky over motionless water. The water seemed immovable, the stone flowing. The stone had the stillness of one brief moment in battle when thrust meets thrust and the currents are held in a pause more dynamic than motion. The stone glowed, wet with sun rays. That is this book. It took me like 100 pages to get into this, and then I was like, and this is one of my favourite books of all time. It's The Fountainhead, by the way. But that first line, you immediately understand that this character has this connection to the natural world. You know, the descriptions of it are very precise. I think that, like, you know, your opening paragraph is more important to me than your opening line. And I think that as long as you get like the vibe of the story very succinctly put into that first paragraph, it can be really powerful. Because even if people don't read it the first time and realize exactly how good it is, it gives it a level of rereadability, right? Like, it's, you can reread this thing over and over and you find something new in it. You understand new things in the references in the story. You understand that those cypress trees, maybe they were purposeful. Maybe, you know, the fact that she has like red nail polish that gleams like fresh blood, maybe that's important. Maybe there's supposed to be this mention, like the last word of the first paragraph is literally bile. Like, that's purposeful. Like, I'm not doing that because I think that it's necessarily the best sounding paragraph ever. I'm doing it because the image that it evokes is the image that I want you to have when you're reading this book, and it sets the stage. Formation Lab, it's about heat and petrol and the cars, and, you know, that is like the core of it because that is who the main character is. And it's when these other things are thrown in, like the fans and the cameras and the opinions of other people, her rival who, you know, she has a relationship with that has failed, the equilibrium that she's known, it is just completely thrown out of balance, right? Like, everything in her life. And this thing, this heat and the passion and the smell and the everything familiar about it is changed, and that's where the problem is. And her attitude towards it changes as a result of that, and it's like she can't get back to it. And so that's like a really important thing in the book. And again, that's not a spoiler. It is the first paragraph for a reason, and that's what you should be getting from it. Even if it takes you like reading a few chapters to be like, I get why you did that now. Even if it takes you reading the whole book and then restarting it to be like, Okay. I think that basically what I'm trying to say is that I'm going to write the second chapter, which is technically the first chapter. But I think that I've done the hard bit and I've like set the scene and I've set the vibe. And if you like are watching this because you want to sort of feel inspired, you maybe want a bit of help, I did say that that was what this series would be, then yeah, that's what I would advise, is to just pick something that sounds and feels right, but to do it in a way that feels like the story rather than, I think a common mistake is that people try and sound clever. They try and give intrigue. You have more than one sentence. People aren't putting a book down because the first sentence was a little bit boring. And if they are, they probably weren't going to finish it anyway. Because if your first sentence is the best of the entire book, why would they keep reading if none of the other sentences aren't, in their opinion, good enough, but only the first sentence was? Like, I just think that it's very overhyped and people talk about first lines a lot. And I think that I think that you have to sometimes acknowledge that, you know, you can't rely on that, and that if you are trying to sound clever, good if you think that you have something. You know, the cypress trees thing, I was like, oh my god, that's perfect. But I was like, oh my god, that's perfect because it means something to me. And the symbology is there, and if people were to really analyse my work one day, they would be able to see that and know that if they had the right background to understand what I was going for. And I think that when you, again, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy comes from, you know, Greek origins. There's like this sort of strain running throughout it, this protagonist, this main character. And the whole story, it's built, like the narrative is built around this woman and about one other of the characters who, you know, it's very classical, like it's supposed to be. And I think that you get the vibe of that from the first line, from the first paragraph. I think it's the first line is the first paragraph and then it's another one, but you know what I mean. And I think that that's what you should be trying to do. Like, don't try and be clever, but if you think of something clever that really nails exactly what you're trying to get across, use it. Like, don't try and force it, but, you know, use like what is there. And especially if you're like doing like a second draft, it is so much easier because you have the story. And I think that, you know, like, you can sometimes read and you can know in a book that they knew that this was what they wanted to do because of what came later. Whether they already knew that that was going to be the focus and they put it in straight away, like with me, or maybe you've written like a draft or two drafts and then you get back to that first paragraph, that first page, and you're just like, I think I know what I want to do, because you know what's coming. And that's my advice, and I'm gonna go and write, and then I'll do a final update when I'm done. And then I want to read my book because I really, really want to read this book so that I can watch the film, because I've never seen the sequel film. I had seen the first film like 3 times. I didn't enjoy it the first few times I watched it. And then I read the book and I loved the book and I watched the film and I was like, you know what? Hey, I kind of like this. It's not as good as the book, but I still like it. And so I really want to watch the sequel, so I need to finish this book soon. So I am in a rush, but it's self-imposed. And if I don't hit my goal, I think that's fine. I've done writing, and I think that considering I woke up, I couldn't get to sleep until 6:30 last night. And I was so tired as well because I had a cry. Not like because I was sad, don't feel bad for me, but like I just was, it was like, I was like thinking about I was thinking about Finnick from the Hunger Games, who, if you don't know, that's his trident permanently on my body. He is my favourite character. I cry whenever I think about him too long. I was also watching the Eras Tour film. I didn't get to go to the Eras Tour. I got tickets. I got pre-sale because I pre-ordered the albums. And then I didn't get to go because I was too unwell. And I had a whole outfit and everything, but I didn't get to go. And so watching it, it was a really weird experience because it was like, I've kind of grown, not out of Taylor Swift, but like I've got more in my life now than just Taylor Swift. I mean, that was always true, but I feel like her music really meant a lot to me when I was very depressed, because a lot of her like breakup songs and stuff, I felt them very deeply from an emotional perspective towards myself and the different versions of myself. And I still, to this day, I know that some people are going to think it's unhealthy, but I see my brain and my body are separate, and it helps me to be kind to myself, because I'm like, well, we got to work together, you know? It helps. It makes me feel better on the days where I feel rubbish. And so it was a lot of emotion, and I had to cry. And then I was like, this is not good. I'm crying too much. So I went and I washed my face, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have puffy eyes in the morning. And I did. But I also didn't wake up in the morning because I got to sleep at 6:30. So I let myself sleep in until like 12 o'clock. And then I was like, and I just sat in bed and I literally just closed my eyes and like existed. And I didn't even fall asleep. Like I tracked every single minute, and I was just like thinking. And when I'm tired enough, I can actually see images in my head. It's really weird. It's like my brain just doesn't like doing it, except for when I'm too tired to not know that I'm not enjoying doing it, right? Like it doesn't know when I'm too tired. I've had that before. It's really weird. But it was like I was dreaming. It was really cool. But it was just me thinking about things and then being like, I should probably like get up. And then I did, because I was like, yeah, I need to just move. And my cat was like, hello. And I was like, that's great. Thank you. They were both very sweet at 6:30 in the morning. But I'm gonna go and do that, and if I don't write much, you know, I'm gonna count it as a win, because I got started, which is good. I did it on schedule, which is good. I also published another issue of my magazine that I run, and like did stuff for that, which is good, because I forgot that existed until like 3 days ago. I actually remembered to write in the diary. I put my clothes away, which doesn't sound that bad, but I have like no wardrobe space. It is a nightmare, and so it's hell. But like I did a bunch of stuff today, and I'm really tired, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of talking to you about this, because I do feel like I'm dying right now. My voice is just I don't know if you can hear the difference. For me, I sound like I'm half asleep. This is how I sound when I've been like so tired that I'm just like, yeah, can I sleep now, please? But I'm gonna do that, and then I'll get back to you, and I'll just wrap up the video. And by the way, I'm supposed to like tell you to subscribe and stuff. I don't really care about that. You know, if you don't want to, you don't want to, that's fine. But if you are new, or if you're not, give me thoughts on the intro, because like I made an intro and an outro because I did one for the happy holidays stuff. I've done one now for just regular videos, and I want to comment on it because I put like a little bit of thought into it. And so yeah, I'm gonna actually go now. I'm gonna write because it's 6:15. But yeah, have an enjoyable time watching me write. Hi. I'm gonna end the video. I actually did write, it's 6:15 now, so it's been 30 minutes. And I've written, I think it's about 900 words. I was at like 400 something. I'm at 1,319. It says 17, but it's 19. I think I need tonight to write a song, because I've decided that the first song that would make sense is one that's not written yet. So I need to do that. But I'm gonna do the diary entry for the book with the word count and how it went and stuff, and then I'm gonna read, and then I'll like chill for a bit, have some dinner, and then I'll probably write it in bed on my phone, because I just prefer doing it like that because it feels less wasteful of my time. And then when I come to write tomorrow, I should have at the very least the first line as a first draft that I can put in to this song sort of section, because I'm not gonna have like the whole song written out. I know that some books do that, obviously the Hunger Games did that, but I also think that when I read that I skip over it. So I just want it to be like 2 or so lines that are embedded in the text, and that people can sort of get the gist of her music and like what it's supposed to be about. This song is the one where it's supposed to be about the idea of like cutting off an ex who, or like a person in your life in general who's like kind of toxic or whatever. I've just realised I've not turned the fan off. It's fine. It's fine, this is the last part of the video. It'll be fine. But basically, that is it. I think it's gonna be like, you know, I like what I've got so far. But yeah, thank you for watching. I will come back with, I don't know when I'll film next. I might, when I've done like the first chapter, I might do like sort of, you know, getting to the action sort of part. I don't remember which chapter. I can actually check that. Yeah, chapter 2 is pretty intense, so I might just do a vlog for each chapter. But I'm gonna end this one there because it literally is just like the first chapter where nothing really happens, and I've talked a lot about how I start a first chapter, so I'm kind of happy with that. I think that it's like what I wanted it to be, and yeah, I just am like super, you know, I'm glad that I did this. Like, I'm glad that I put the sort of effort in to start today, because I knew that I wanted to start today, but sometimes, you know, you change your mind when you've woken up at 12 or whatever, after being asleep for like less than 6 full hours and not really sleeping well for that whole time. Like, it just, stuff happens, stuff gets in the way. I think that that is also like something that I'll say now, is that if you're watching this because you want to write a book and you want to be somebody who like learns from me, first of all, I'm not an expert, but also I'm not the blueprint. Like, you don't have to write 1,300 words the first time that you start writing a book. You don't have to feel super confident in the way that you've written it. I'm alright with it. I think that it's a good first draft, as first drafts go. Based off of the 1,300 words, like, it's literally not that long, okay? It's not that easy for things to go wrong this early in. Let's see how we feel in a few chapters, right? Next chapter is going to be a really important one. But yeah, I think I'll just try and do, like, I'll film important moments and give a little bit of insight the way that I kind of said that I would, whilst also doing my diary and like keeping that in my mind. And then I'm going to read my book, and I'm going to keep telling you what books I'm reading, and hopefully this is like interesting. If not, I'm sorry, but I think that this is like, for me, this is like, it's a digital diary. And then the next video that I do, I can promise you I will space them out so that it is the next video, because I said it was going to be the next video last video and then I just didn't film. But I wanted to do this today because of the fact that I wanted to start writing today, but I am going to do my Magnolia Parks video. So I will do that I might even film it this week and then just say it's upload in 2 weeks, or like a week and a bit, because it's like a week and a half really. But that'll be the next one. I do talk about books a lot. I also talk about writing a lot. So yeah, and I guess if you like have a novel that you are writing, let me know. I am a nosy person, and if this is like your encouragement to make a video like this yourself, please do it. I love watching stuff like this. I never say no if one comes up on my like suggested tab or whatever. I just think that it's great. So I hope this was interesting. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the mess that it is. It's New Year's Day. Like, what do you want from me, you know? It's kind of what I've been saying to myself. Like, you gotta be, you know, I like hated the way that I looked yesterday, and then I didn't hate the way that I looked the second that I finished and was like, you know what, now that I take a step back, it's not that bad, it's not that deep. But yeah, follow me on TikTok as well, because I'll probably do a bunch of content things for this book, especially now that I'm actually writing it. You know, like sneak peeks, like aesthetic posts, but also like snippets, things about the characters. I like doing stuff like that. And also the podcast, I'll probably be talking about it on the podcast more, because obviously the more that I write about it, the more I'll be able to talk about it, and then eventually I'm gonna query this book. So, you know, follow along for the journey if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in. If you're interested in seeing the whole process, go watch that video where I plan it, and yes, that's your homework for the day. Thank you and goodbye.